my daughter Shelly was she died at a club here in D.C. But the longer story is that she was just a wonderful person. Just added so much to the life of my husband and myself. She was our only child. My husband and I have been married 32 years, and she came along about 10 years after we were married. So we were kind of a emergency baby sort of notion, and just to support that, she was born on 9/11, so it was kind of interesting. We're just like, oh, this is our 9/11 baby. And she was always a real special child. She had a real compassionate heart. She was, above average in a lot of ways, but she was a loyal and dear friend to so many people. She was unusual in that her friends would look up to her. I mean, that's kind of weird, and but they had so much respect for who she was and what she stood for. She was way before community service was ever a popular thing to do. She was out there working at the food bank and organizing shifts and just all those wonderful things that a mother can be proud of. She was, captain of the tennis team, boys and girls. She had leadership abilities. What else can I tell you about Shelley? I think about it too much, it'll make me too sad. Because Shelley was a casualty of the war on drugs. She had been at UVA a year and was starting she was a week into her second year. That's what they say at UVA. They don't say sophomore, they say second year. So she had called me. I was traveling out west with my husband. Actually, we were returning from Chicago. He had a meeting there. We were in Kentucky. And I had known that she was going to go to a concert. I mean, I was a college student once. Going dancing, going to a concert was a perfectly natural thing to do. So I knew that she was going. But we were in Kentucky. It was about 2:30 in the morning, and I got a call from one of her friends, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I said, What is it? Tell me. What's going on?" And she said, "Shelley, she's in an ambulance. I'm so sorry. She took Molly." And being the uninformed person that I was, I said, "Who's Molly?" Every mother's nightmare, right? So we couldn't fly back. We were in Kentucky. We had access to private planes, but everything was socked in with fog, and so we did the most horrible 9.5-hour journey of my life. I kept watching the clouds, and I saw a crescent moon, and there was a star, and then the clouds went over it, and I said, "Oh, no, don't let that be it." And then it came back, and so I thought, okay, we got that hope, and then it went completely black, and I knew at that moment that she wasn't with me anymore. And it was true. I never saw her, got to hold her again. She was in ER, but she was unresponsive to everything. So anyway, we drove up there, and they tried to resuscitate her. She, at the club, apparently, she and her friends, a particular fraternity, I think, had rented a bus to be responsible citizens and not add to crowd issues in D.C. They'd all taken MDMA. Went to the concert, and they'd been there about 4 hours, I guess, when Shelley suffered from hyperthermia, heat stroke, and died from cardiac arrest. At the time, we thought it was an adulterated drug because nobody else had died. I mean, it didn't make any sense to us. But we got the toxicology reports back 3 months later, right up until the 90-day deadline, and it was diagnosed to have been MDMA intoxication. So with that information, I was really, really confused, because I was, in my own mind, I was saying, well, it makes sense that she got something that somebody else didn't get. So when I got this information, I had to look into what MDMA was, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized that probably wasn't what killed her. She, from all witnesses, I don't know how much she took. I assume she took what other people take, but I wasn't there. I don't know what she took. I knew it was pure MDMA. So the research and the people that started to reach out to me helped me understand that it probably wasn't the MDMA that killed her. And more than likely it was the situation that she was in. So you all probably know that MDMA interferes with your body's ability to regulate temperature. And at this particular club in DC, and I'll call it out, it's Echo Stage. Don't anybody go to Echo Stage for an EDM concert. It'll kill you. I mean, it's just don't do it. It's a very unsafe concert hall. But at the event, I later learned that it had things going on there that made it particularly unsafe for people that were attending concerts there, particularly EDM. There were no crowd control measures. There was no water. I don't know if probably some of you were at the breakout session this afternoon where I talked about so this is what happens when you lose a child. It's like getting shot in the head, because I have a train of thought and then I just lose it, so excuse me. So let me back up a little bit. Okay, so later to find out that at the club it was very overcrowded, it was overheated, they didn't have adequate water, they had people in the restrooms to keep people from even filling their water bottles. There had been, my research since then has shown that they've had a medical emergency, they've had 3 deaths in the 36 months that they've been open. They've had over 45 911 calls in that 36 months. And so this fed into this realization of mine that, well, I don't understand. How can you have these unsafe settings like this? This is ludicrous. The people are dying. You've got medical emergencies right and left. What's going on? And again, through lots of support from lots of good people, I came to learn that there was this law that was standing in the way of event promoters and organizers, venue owners, from implementing what I'm calling safe setting measures. Adequate water, free and abundant water, peer-to-peer education, the things that have been mentioned before, and that they couldn't implement those things because they would be prosecuted under the RAVE Act. Okay, so I have to learn all about the RAVE Act. The RAVE Act has imposed a fear among promoters for instituting safe setting measures. The DEA, I understand, has maybe prosecuted one event organizer, and I don't even know if that led to a prosecution or not. But the fear itself is what is keeping many of these events from being the safe environments that they can be should people choose to use. They are also very unsafe for people that don't use. It's a dangerous situation. Understanding that the RAVE Act was a problem. I'm a political science major. I worked for congressmen for a number of years and understood that amending the RAVE Act, yes, it takes an act of Congress, but there are sometimes ways that you can effect change with legislation through an amendment that wouldn't be so big that it would be just an obstacle in and of itself. It can be attached to other legislation. There are lots of things that can be done. So in the year after Shelley died, we launched the Amend the RAVE Act campaign. We've met with several legislators, both of my Virginia senators, Senator Kane and Senator Warner. I've met with them and presented the petitions, and I've also met with the White House, and the reception from the White House, the Office of National Drug Control Policy, they've been great. They want to fix this. And when I did the research into the legislation itself, it's getting a little bit crazy, but there seems to be a way to do it without amending the RAVE Act. You could change the regulations that were being used by people who were interpreting the legislation. So if you had ONDCP say, oh, well, it excludes this, and this, and they put that in the regulations and send that out, then that would be as good as amending the RAVE Act. So the point is to make the settings much safer than they are now. And to do that has taken a lot of effort by a lot of people. We've gathered 14,000 signatures. People have been unbelievably supportive. I'm I'm really glad to be on this journey because it gives me focus. The loss of Shelley from my life has been devastating. I have a son by previous marriage, and I have 3 grandchildren, but Shelley was fun. She was my product of my husband, my current husband, and we've been married, like I said, 32 years. And she was just such a delightful part of our life, and we don't have that anymore, and we miss her an awful lot. But working on the Amend the RAVE Act has given me some focus. Meeting and working with all the young people that are working towards drug reform, drug policy reform has been amazing. I get it. I want more people my age to get it. I think there's a tendency to try to forget that you were once wild and risk-taking teenagers or young people. So I don't know what to say. I want to say thank you is what I want to say. Without you all, I couldn't be where I am today. It has really given me hope. I think we can change this. I think it'll be a foot in the door if we can get peer-to-peer education and on site in the events. That is step one, folks. That is step one. The safety measures, they might be able to say, oh, well, that's a public safety issue. We're going to put that to Department of Health or something. But if we can package it all together into safe settings, I think we've got something really important. Thank you.